It's tranquil here now, quiet, peaceful. But once this barn was the center of an uproar that was heard from coast to coast.
Are you people crazy? That elephant has been in that zoo for 20 or 30 something years, and now you decide to move her? I say, the elephant stays.
I can't believe we're even discussing this issue tonight after seeing these pictures of Fanny in her chains literally around the clock for 2/3 or 3/4 of a year.
Would you give your child away? I don't think so. Fanny is our child.
Slater Park is part swamp and part remains of a worn-out farm when the city buys it in 1894. Its first menagerie opens in 1916 with just rabbits, pigeons, and deer. Eventually, officials want more for Pawtucket Zoo. In 1936, they add a herd of elk, then trade off the deer for a lion, a leopard, and an Arctic wolf. Zoo officials of Slater Park buy 7 animals from Ringling Brothers Circus in Florida. Fanny the Elephant is among them. No one knows for sure when she was born, though it's certain she was captured in the wild in Asia as a baby. Ringling Brothers bought her from a trainer in 1955. Now she's sold as surplus, but she's found a home in Pawtucket.
A Name the Animals contest will be held among the school children to find new names for Fanny and the other animals.
Over 10,000 entries flood in. The winning name for Fanny is Little Rhodey, but it doesn't stick. It won't be the last time her name is changed. The circus then agrees to lease the city a dozen more animals along with their cages for $1 a year. One official boasts that Pawtucket could become the circus city of the North. But the Pawtucket Times points out the obvious. The nation is in a recession.
At a time like this, with police and firemen making a pretty good case for more money, and the school committee saying it won't have the money to conduct its affairs, and the government saying that money is scarce, the zoo is an added expense it could do without. Now is not the time for luxuries.
The Pawtucket Teachers Alliance is opposed to what they call that nonsensical menagerie, as long as there are still payless paydays for them. Developing the zoo, while ignoring education, they say, can result only in a population of happy morons. The Fraternal Order of Police joins the protest. Letters to the editor ask, who's going to pay the vet and the food bills? But Mayor McCarthy is convinced that the zoo will draw tourists and their dollars to Pawtucket. It will pay its own way, he says. It's a popular move. The animals are here to stay. The people have fallen in love with Fanny. She has become the sweetheart of Pawtucket. Her keeper boasts, everybody in the state knows Fanny. Children ride on her. People feed her their favorite foods. She loves their treats and gulps them down eagerly.
Everybody not only loved Fanny, they loved to feed Fanny. And she loved Twinkies, and she loved apples, and she loved cookies, and she loved everything a little kid would come and give her.
You could feel the love coming off of her, and you wanted to return that by giving her a carrot or giving her an apple or rewarding her in some way. And I think that's how it got out of hand.
From the first, the zoo tries to keep things under control. It's hopeless. She's especially loved by Pawtucket's cash-strapped families.
It was just a wonderful place to go, and you know, being a poor family, it didn't cost a lot, and we just enjoyed seeing her all the time.
When we first got married, we lived in an apartment and had the kids, and the only pets they could have at that time was goldfish. And so they've been wanting, my son wanted a dog and whatnot. And I said, oh, no, we can't, but you know, we have a pet for you, but it just grew up and we couldn't keep it here. It's Fanny the Elephant, right? And then we told Karen this as she got older, and she really took it to heart.
Fanny lives quietly for the next 20 years. Some zoo-goers become disillusioned with her conditions, though.
I took my son to see Fanny. It was pure magic. And the second time we went back and visited, Fanny seemed sad. And all I could see was this cement block garage, and she was shackled the whole time.
This is Slater Park in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. The zoo here has outdated cages that are the same as prisons for their animals. As a result, the animals now act like prisoners.
Even with this, the zoo doesn't change. The camel stomps its keeper to death. Frosty the polar bear is shot and killed by police after he's set free by vandals. Fanny is alone and chained most of the time. According to experts,
Water, mud, dust, soil, or sand must be available for elephants to dust themselves. Recommended minimum size for outdoor habitats is not less than 5,400 square feet per elephant. Each zoo must hold a minimum of 3 females. Exercise protocols should be in place for maintaining good body condition.
in 1981, the zoo closes for renovations. All of the animals are removed, but Fanny.
Fanny, the 4.5-ton elephant, is the only animal on display at Slater Park, which is to say she is the city zoo. A heavy burden, even for an elephant to bear.
In order to finance the renovations, the zoo lets the public adopt the animals. Skunks, raccoons, and the Rhode Island red chickens go for $25. Fanny, on the other hand, can be had for a mere $35,000. When the dust settles, Fanny has larger new quarters, a skylight in her cell, and a pool formerly used by the seals to play in. The city celebrates the renovation with a party. People continue to visit her. She is more than just an animal to them.
I used to hear people just talking to her about like everyday life. She was Pawtucket's shrink.
It was comforting if you had a bad day to go there. It was because it was almost like you knew she was listening.
Her only companion arrives in 1985 when an elephant from a nearby zoo undergoing renovations stays with her. After it leaves, she has no other companion for the next 8 years.
And I would go back to the zoo, and there I would see this one elephant, having been alone for 35 years, rocking back and forth.
It was a small area. You know, as I got older and older, you could see it was a different feeling that you got when you went to go visit her. And it was just too small of an area, and to see, you know, the chain around her foot. She was such a gentle elephant, it seemed kind of odd that she had this chain.
I remember Fanny being in really close quarters, and the whole zoo experience was just horrifying.
Seven animals die at the zoo in 4 months in 1991. The newly formed Save Slater Park Committee urges the city to close the zoo.
Councilman Barry seems to be the only one so far who has said, close the zoo. It's never been a good zoo.
I've been a resident of the city for 59 years, and the zoo, I think, is 58 years old. And the zoo really hasn't improved in 58 years.
And I always felt that, you know, the way I grew up was Fanny was in a chain in a small confined area, and we didn't get around there. But as I educated myself more, it really wasn't the right thing to do at that point.
I had this dream. Out of the blue, Fanny comes to me, and she only says one thing: help me. And the emotion in the dream was so profound that I couldn't just get up. So I decided I would check out to see, one, if she was alive. Two, I was going to go back down to the zoo. It was worse than it had been than I had remembered. The stench really accosted you when you walked in. And here was this elephant. And I have learned after a lot of research that when elephants rock back and forth like that, there's one of two things happening. One, they're traumatized. Or two, they're trying to avoid and remove their arthritic pain. Now, I think Fanny was in both situations. I called City Hall to try to see what could be done. So finally, they gave me the number of the head of the zoo. And his comment was probably the comment that helped me stir the fire inside my heart to say, I'm going to do something about this. When he said, oh, Fanny doesn't know the difference. She's had this her whole life. She doesn't feel the pain because she's been chained all her life. How could she know anything different? It doesn't bother her. She even lifts her leg for you to put her chain on her.
The council examines the zoo with a Humane Society representative.
This would be a terrific zoo if it were 1953, but it's 1991 and techniques and management have changed.
The director of Roger Williams Park Zoo announces that the state of Slater Park Zoo is pretty depressing. He is particularly concerned about Fanny's isolation.
The problem with Fanny is, according to the Humane Society, she has been in solitary confinement for the last 35 years of her life at Slater Park.
Somebody like Fanny the Elephant, it's going to be very hard to find a home for her because she's old. Her personality, she's been alone all these years. There might be a psychological problem there. She needs a lot of attention and a lot of care, and I think that's going to require a special place for her to be put, you know, where she can get that attention.
2 weeks later, the council proposes to close the zoo to save the budget.
The zoo has become a blot on the city's reputation. There are three things we can do: downsize it, improve it, or close it.
Mulholland asked for 2 years to turn the zoo around. If he can't do it, he will ask the council to close it. It is the beginning of the end. Councilmen speak out.
A gentleman called me tonight to point out that he's paying taxes to feed the animals in the zoo. Then he told me that he can barely afford to feed his own children.
I believe the zoo should not be kept. The money could be used for better objectives, such as my education. Classrooms are overcrowded and a serious shortage of books exist.
Slater Park Zoo is the only fun place in Pawtucket. Just charge $1 per person admission, and that will solve the money problem.
A vote yes is to close the zoo.
Yes. Councilor Bray?
Yes.
Councilor Callisto?
Yes.
Councilor Clement?
Yes.
Councilor Doyle?
Yes.
Councilor Kinder?
Yes.
Councilor Moran?
Yes.
Councilor Rabbit?
No.
Councilor Vieira?
Yes.
8-1.
The Pawtucket Times runs a poll to gauge the public's wishes. One local man installs an 8-foot-high fiberglass elephant named Fanny in front of the paper's offices to encourage votes. The stays have it at 2,111 to 650. Even the children get involved in the uproar. A radio talk show host threatens to go national with the story unless Fanny is freed. Infuriated council members say he's just trying to boost his ratings.
You know, to me it was always about the issue and is it the right thing to do?
Fanny became how you got votes, and how you sold papers, how you had a radio show that got more. It was the news, the media, everybody got involved.
Hollywood calls to help out.
Tippi Hendricks, who was in the Birds, she has a sanctuary, and she called and said, you've got to free the animal. The animal has to come out. And a Loretta Swit called.
Fanny was the hardest one to place. And she was just so special to everyone. It was really tough. At the end, there were two places that we were down to sending her. And one was Marine World Africa in California, and the other was Black Beauty Ranch in Murchison, Texas. And no one on the committee had seen where any of the places were, didn't know anything about it. And a few days before we were supposed to vote on it, my wife and I talked it over, and we said we would like to go down and visit Marine World Africa. We flew to California. They showed us how that there were 11 other elephants that Fanny would be working with. And Fanny hadn't been with anyone before, and so, you know, we thought it might be a great thing for her. But after viewing what they had to do, they had to perform to people, giving rides, rolling logs, doing other things in there that I didn't like that Fanny would have to do. At the end, with the 11 other elephants, when the day was done, Fanny would have to be chained up with them. So she wouldn't be by herself, and it just didn't look right to us. And, my wife and I talked over again, and we said we'd like to go to Black Beauty Ranch. So he says, okay, we'll hold off the voting until you come back. We flew out the next day. When you go into there, it's like a sanctuary. You see all the animals all over the place in their own pens, though, which was so peaceful and so beautiful. Showed us where Fanny would be staying, which was a great big place for her, and one was for Conga, which was next in the same area. And we saw what it looked like. It was going to be heated in the winter. Fanny would be out all the time. And then she would not have to be chained there, which was great also. So Pat and I were just so happy that that would be a place for Fanny.
Meanwhile, Pawtucketers begin a long parade to say goodbye to their girl. Over 3,000 people come to Fanny's farewell party. It is declared Fanny the Elephant Day by the mayor. She even has her own theme song.
You can see her anytime of any day. One of these nights she's gone. Get up and get away. Run, run, Fanny, put your big leg down. She'd rather knock it over than to think of going round. Run, run, Fanny, with your nose to the ground. She'd pick you right up. She'd turn you right around. You better run, buddy, run. Fanny's on a stampede now.
People loved this elephant, but they didn't, in my opinion, didn't know how to love her.
Fanny is loaded in a truck later that same night for her long trip to Texas. Over the next 2 days, she travels over 1,700 miles in the steel-reinforced truck. Fanny's new home is a health spa right from the beginning. Her new caretaker, Chris Byrne, announces that she's not going to get any more junk food. There will be no more donuts for her. At 9,500 pounds, she is sadly out of shape. Getting her healthy is his first priority. Within months, she loses 1,800 pounds and recovers from chronic digestive problems through a healthy diet and regular exercise. She grazes on the 615-acre property, sprays herself with water from the pond, and takes dust baths regularly. Most importantly, she has a companion, an African elephant named Conga. They hit it off immediately. Rhode Islanders find it hard to let her go.
City residents miss Fanny the Elephant so much that they have been flooding her new home with phone calls since she moved from Slater Park Zoo. Averaging 2 to 3 calls a day, keeper Chris Burns asks people to hold off so that he can take the time he needs to care for the sanctuary's animals. He promises to keep residents up to date through releases and photos he'll send to the Pawtucket Times.
Burns changes Fanny's name to Tara, a Hindu name for star goddess. He announces unthinkingly her disconnection with Rhode Island is complete. Pawtucket residents are furious. Burns apologizes. The name stays.
Pawtucket's Fanny the Elephant has died at the Black Beauty Ranch in Texas. She was 49.
The ranch owners found Fanny, who had been ill for 2 weeks, lying on the ground on Saturday. They could not get her to stand for more than a few minutes. She was euthanized and went peacefully. Her companion, Babe, wouldn't leave her side.
I remember I was newly engaged and I had just moved into my husband's house. And he came home to me crying at the kitchen table. And he's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "My pet elephant died." I had never told him about Fanny. So he's like,
That was one of the saddest days ever. And I think, personally, and I'm sure a lot of people felt the same way, was I couldn't be there. We couldn't be with her. You know, if she had died at the zoo, we could have all kind of been around her and celebrated her life or whatever.
Fanny and her memory have inspired the arts, from sculpture to poetry.
No, it's very important that the sculpture be Fanny. Absolutely critical, because there are 3 generations of Pawtucket residents that have in their scrapbooks pictures of Fanny taking their kids to see Fanny. And the memory of this elephant in the community is so vibrant that I felt an enormous responsibility to make a portrait of this specific elephant. Otherwise, I would hear it from all these people saying, well, it's an elephant, but that's not Fanny. It's a portrait of Fanny, almost more than that, a portrait of people's memory of Fanny. From talking to people, you get this sense of this elephant being this incredibly benevolent soul that everybody loved. And I thought about that a lot, trying to capture in the expression of her face, the attitude of her head.
I looked at her eyes and I said, oh my God, look at her eyes. It's like she's looking at us saying, I'm back, I'm here.